Housing inventory has finally started to increase. So does that mean that home prices have started to drop? Well, I'm going to be answering that question and many more in today's video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cara.fiano and I am a local real estate broker here in Asheville, North Carolina. In case you missed my last video, I recently switched brokerages from Century 21 over to Mackey Realty. I'll go ahead and put my updated contact information here on the screen. Of course, if you guys would like a copy of my free homebuyer guide, or maybe you would like a free comparative market analysis done on your home if you're considering listing it, I'd be more than happy to connect with you. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. But for today, we have a lot to dive into, so let's jump right in. As always, I'm going to be sharing some statistics around home prices, housing inventory, mortgage news, local news, and other news. Let's start out with price on a national level. The median sale price for an existing home in the US has increased by 5.7% year over year to almost $420,000. This is the highest price we have ever seen since NAR, or the National Association of Realtors, started tracking this metric. This all-time high follows 11 consecutive months of price increases. At the same time, rent prices were actually declining for 11 months up until April and May, when they started to increase by 0.9% and 0.8% respectively. The US median asking rent is $1,653, which is $47 less than the all-time high. The average list to sale ratio has barely budged compared to May of 2023. It dropped by 0.2% to 99.5%. What this shows us is that sellers are generally getting what they're asking for their properties. Let's move on now to price on a local level. The average list price for the Asheville region actually shot up by 20% year over year to $695,000. This number definitely surprised me, and I feel like there are some outliers here, maybe some luxury listings that are helping to bring this price up. The metrics that I tend to focus on are average sale price and median sale price. The average sale price for the Asheville region is up by 11.5% to $550,000. This is $25,000 higher than a month ago. The median sale price is also up, this time by 7.4% to $435,000. This is also $20,000 higher than we saw a month ago. As you can see, home prices nationally as well as locally are certainly holding strong. I know I've spoke to a few people recently that have mentioned they've seen more price decreases on listings, or maybe homes are sitting on the market for longer. And yes, that is true for some properties. However, when we zoom out and look at the entire market, that's really not the picture that we're seeing. There will always be some properties where maybe the seller or listing agent overpriced the home and it tends to sit a little bit longer, or maybe the property isn't as well maintained and ultimately just isn't as desirable of a home. In those instances, yes, you might see more price decreases and homes sit on the market for longer. However, if a home is priced well, it's likely going to sell pretty quickly, at least here in the Asheville market. To give you guys an idea, I had a listing down near Lake Lure earlier this spring, and that ended up selling with 5 offers in one weekend, and it sold for $40,000 over asking. I also had another property listed a couple months ago that recently closed, and that one had 2 offers over asking as well. So the market here is certainly still strong. Let's move on now to inventory on a national level. According to Redfin, 1/3 of single-family homes listed for sale in Q1 of this year were new builds. This is slightly down from the record high of 34.5% that we saw 2 years ago. At the same time, despite inventory being lower, builders have actually started to scale back the amount of homes they're building. Construction starts on new housing units dropped by 5.5% between April and May. Construction starts are also 19.3% lower than we saw in May of last year. Housing completions fell by 8.4% between April and May. However, they are 1% higher than May of last year. The most likely reasons that builders have started to scale back construction is because of increased construction costs as well as higher interest rates, making them more uncertain as to what's going to happen with the housing market, since fewer buyers are able to afford the current interest rates. Let's move on now to inventory on a local level. New listings in May were up by 8.6% year over year. However, they're still lower than we saw 2 years ago. Total inventory for May was actually up by 33% year over year and was a bit above last year's peak in October. While inventory is still low in the grand scheme of things, we are definitely headed in the right direction. Similarly, month supply of inventory is definitely trending in the right direction, but we're still in a seller's market. As a reminder, if this number is below 6, it's considered a seller's market, 6 to 7 is a neutral market, and 7 and higher is considered a buyer's market. These numbers are a little bit arbitrary, as I've seen different analysts use different ranges, but we are definitely well below that 6 number. As a little refresher, month supply of inventory refers to the number of homes listed for sale at the end of any given month, divided by the average monthly pending sales over the past 12 months. This is a good indicator of how much time it would take to ultimately run out of inventory at the current rate of demand. The number of closed sales remained relatively flat year over year and dropped by only 1.9%. The number of closed sales has been trending downward on an annual basis since 2020. Let's move on now to some mortgage news. Well, it's probably no surprise that Fannie Mae ended up modifying their predictions yet again for what mortgage rates are going to do through the end of this year and into next year. You've probably heard on the news that the Fed is now predicting only one more rate cut for 2024. Fannie Mae is now predicting rates will be around 6.7% by the end of this year and 6.3% by the end of 2025. The MBA, on the other hand, is predicting rates will be around 6.5% by the end of this year and 5.9% by the end of 2025. Of course, these predictions are subject to change, but it's likely that we're going to see rates in the 6s for the coming months. Mortgage rates did fall below 7% recently to their lowest level since March, although this didn't spur much extra demand. Interest rates for a conventional 30-year fixed-rate mortgage were averaging around 6.87% on June 20th. Mortgage applications have ticked up by about 2% over the past week, although they are 12% lower than this time last year. Let's move on to some local news. Construction has officially begun on the Whitewater Wave and Riverside Park 4-acre expansion project. This is part of Woodfin's Greenway and Blueway project. That's all I have for local news this month, but hopefully in July I'll have a bit more of an update on Buncombe County's short-term rental restrictions. Let's move on now to some other news. Not too surprisingly, homeowners with interest rates at 5% or higher are 3 times more likely to enter the market than those with a sub 3.5% rate. We are still seeing the effects of the lock-in effect, where plenty of homeowners have lower interest rates and are not keen to sell those properties, give up those interest rates, and in some cases double their mortgage payment. This is a large reason why we've been seeing low inventory, and I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot of change in the real estate market until we start to see rates drop by a significant amount. The last statistic I have for you guys today is about short-term rental restrictions in different places across the country. Cleveland has been considering adding some short-term rental restrictions. New York City implemented some last year, and San Francisco has been trying different restrictions over the past few years. These restrictions have been working to a degree, but of course they have their fair share of issues. I'm really curious if you, the viewer, are not currently living in Asheville. I would love to know if your current location does have any short-term rental restrictions and how they're working out from your personal perspective. Do you like them? Do you think they're helpful? Maybe your city doesn't have any restrictions. I'd be curious to know how things are in your neck of the woods. Well, that is everything for today's video, guys. As I mentioned earlier, I have some new contact information, so I'll put that on the screen here once again for you. If you would like a copy of my free home buyer guide or a free comparative market analysis done for you on your property, feel free to reach out to me. I also have some really big plans for new guides and new brochures for you guys that'll be really helpful, and they will be free as well. So I'm going to be creating a whole packet of information for buyers as well as for sellers, and I'm excited to share that with you going forward. So if there's anything in particular that you would want to see, leave me a comment down below and let me know, whether it's a brochure or maybe a future video idea. I love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you are not already, share this video with your family and friends, and I will see you guys very soon in the next one.